Creativity Podcast. I'm your host, Mari Reesberg. Over the past several years, I've combined my degrees in acting and somatic psychology to share my sustaining creativity techniques with performers. And now I've decided to share it with a bigger audience that includes you. I believe we are all creative, and this podcast is all about that. I'll be interviewing people from all backgrounds, ages, and creativity experiences to share just how creative we all are. Today, I'll be chatting with Mike Poggioli, photographer and psychologist. Please enjoy Mike Poggioli. Welcome to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. Today, I'm here with Mike Poggioli, photographer, and I am assuming so much more. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I'm very excited to chat with you about creativity today and your new book that just came out and the world of creativity that you find yourself in and navigating in your own way. But before we get there, why don't you take a couple of minutes and let our listeners know a little bit more about who you are and what it is you do?
All right, yeah, thank you. So currently I live in Asheville, North Carolina, right in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I'm primarily a psychologist. That's my full-time, my day job.
Love it.
Yeah. And yeah, and I've loved photography. I've loved it for a while. It's getting to be almost, I think, 10 years since I was, really picked up a camera and kind of got into the craft, I guess you could say. Um, so yeah, just living in the mountains right now and doing lots of therapy.
Well, we have that in common. So I love learning that. And tell us a little bit. You have this book coming out through Trope Publishing, Cincinnati Dreaming. And how did that come about? You live in North Carolina. This book is about Cincinnati. Tell us more.
Yes, that's a great question to connect the dots. I have to remind myself sometimes too. Um, so I moved to Cincinnati for graduate school. I went to Xavier to do, to get my degree in psychology. And so I was there for 4 years, which is a good amount of time in, just to spend somewhere brand new. I'd never been really, didn't really know much about it. But I think that was a great entryway to come in with no expectations. And it was really cool to just discover a new city through just taking pictures. Just like photography got me through grad school.
Love it. Yes.
Just having that creative outlet. And so, outside of classwork and clinical training, all the free time I had, I grabbed my camera, I went out and just walked around, took pictures. And so this book is just like a culmination of, I think it's over 100 of my favorite pictures of the city of over four. And then I came back after I moved. So maybe 4.5 to 5 years worth of photos,
Wow.
um, kind of putting it all together.
That's amazing. I love that kind of experience of discovering a new city through a camera lens and how you might notice different things than you would if you were just kind of walking around and exploring with a different intention behind it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a great word. Kind of the intention. I think that plays a huge role in creativity, like setting your intention and then the camera. Um, for me, it was, I'm a psychologist, so I guess I have to say this, but it was like a practice in mindfulness. So it's very
Yeah.
uh, it's a very mindful kind of activity.
Hmm.
Kind of just kind of looking around me, seeing what there was, trying to be aware and open, take it all in. So yeah, Yeah, totally agree.
I love that. And I love how that connection of mindfulness and creativity and discovery and curiosity, it all kind of comes together in the world of creativity. I'm curious, when you think of creativity, what does it mean to you to be creative?
Yeah, that's a actually the more I like think about that question, the harder it gets. I feel like it's very hard to pin down um like one objective uh like definition other than creating things or being someone who creates things. But I'd say for me, I think something that has really brought me to photography has been just trying to capture, appreciate beauty in the world. So for me, it's a lot about like bringing something beautiful into the world that maybe didn't exist, maybe necessarily in that way before, and kind of and then sharing that. So that's kind of my um, that would be my like working definition right now of kind of what that means to me, especially in the photography
Yeah.
space.
I love that. I love this, there is an appreciation of beauty or finding beauty in unexpected ways through light, through dimension, through angles and whatnot in the world of photography. I'm
Mhm.
curious your experience with kind of the challenges, that kind of flip side, where
Mhm.
what are some of those challenges that you face for yourself in this creative expression, and how do you navigate them?
Mm. That's yeah, there are definitely challenges. I almost look at it in kind of two types of challenges. One is just finding the time to actually create.
Yeah.
Um, and and so I have some thoughts about that. And then there's like, I keep coming back to, I feel like photography is my main creative outlet, but when I'm maybe feeling like I'm in a creative rut or something like that, I feel like that's another challenge. But
Hmm.
um, it's definitely been difficult, having a full-time job in life to get out there. It's harder and harder. But something I have been, and you mentioned this a little bit ago, is kind of get stepping out of this box of creativity has to look one way.
Mhm.
And I'll be um, I'll be like writing my notes at the end of the day, my therapy notes, and the sun will be coming through the window, hitting one of my plants, and it's just hitting just right. And there's, then, after that, it's a 10-minute photo shoot of a plant and some light. And I might never share those, but there's just something really beautiful about it. And I think I've just created. And so I think just finding those little moments,
Mhm.
like throughout the day. Um, but even in therapy, it can be, there's a ton of creativity that you can bring in, but it just looks different. So I think just being flexible.
Yeah. No, I love that reminder that creativity looks different doing different things. It's not going to
Mhm.
be performative in the same way an actor on stage expresses creativity. That would be odd in a therapy session if that's what your therapist was doing, but I don't
Right.
know. Yeah. We talked
Yeah.
before we started recording a little bit about imposter syndrome, and I'm wondering if we can dig into that a little bit because I think it resonates with a lot of people of what it means to be creative and sharing your creative work and calling yourself an artist or creative or photographer when you do have a traditional full-time job. So walk
Yeah.
us through that.
Yeah. I mean, no, I even like, cringed a little with being associated with the label photographer because
Yeah.
so much like I went for I feel more comfortable like saying psychologist because there's this path of this training and you get like this degree.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think yeah, I feel uncomfortable being called like a photographer because I can think of so many other photographers who are just so amazing, like, and
Mm,
who I look to for so much like inspiration.
mhm,
So it definitely, I feel imposter syndrome all the time. I think um, something that helps me is maybe reframing that as, I'm just someone who likes to take pictures. That I
mhm,
feel that like a lot more comfortable there, and it turns it more into like the creative act rather than these labels. And
mhm.
but yeah, imposter syndrome is there all the time.
I thank you for sharing that, first of all. And I totally appreciate that even someone who has a photography book out in the world and loves taking pictures and 10 years in is still questioning whether or not you're a photographer, you
That's
know?
so true. When you put it that way, no, but you're absolutely right.
But it reminds me of just that the shift from childhood to adulthood, where kids will 100% be like, no, I am this, and
Mm,
claim it and own it. And then as we get older and life kind of happens and tumbles us, we start to question and doubt, am I that? So I'm curious, when you think of childhood and early experiences of creativity, what's your earliest memory of being creative?
yeah, it's really interesting to go back because you could argue that we are our most creative when we're younger and we're just the we have the world at our fingertips and it's just brand new. There's so
Mhm.
much to explore. Um, I think kind of digging back into the memory. I have some of my earliest experiences. I know I really loved just drawing with colored pencils. Like I would draw these like waterfall scenes I'd seen a picture of and tried to copy, which is kind of cool because now I live in North Carolina. There's so many waterfalls here. I'll actually see like the real life version of what I tried to draw.
I love it.
And so it playing with like color and
Mm.
but I think even before then, I always like just loved being in nature. So I remember I would like collect different leaves, different color leaves and rocks, put them in different displays, that looked kind of cool.
Mhm.
Um, I don't remember how old I was, but those are some of my fondest memories, just like some of the best times just doing that.
Yeah, I'm really struck by this, hearing you talk about the collecting of leaves and rocks and then putting them together. That speaks to me so much of a mindfulness practice of collecting and
Yeah.
organizing and displaying. Like, it's a very thoughtful, present moment experience, similar to how
Mm.
you described taking pictures and exploring a new city in that same capacity.
Yeah, I had never made that connection, but I think that's spot on. And yeah, I was like when I don't know how old I was, maybe like 7.
Yeah,
I was in the zone.
right,
And
right.
and when I was out, just kind of wandering through Cincinnati, it's kind of that same feeling, just kind of being in the zone.
Hmm. I love that. Is there a way that you get into that zone? Like, do you have any techniques or skills for yourself to find yourself in what some people might call the flow, or musicians call the pocket, or, that
Uh-huh.
space?
Um, I don't, yeah, I'm not sure if I have like a particular regimen or something that helps get me in there. I think uh I love walking, so just kind of starting off just taking a stroll usually helps, and then kind of seeing things along the way that might strike my eye.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I'm a big believer in, even if you don't necessarily feel creative or inspired, the power of just still going out and
Yeah.
getting started with
Mhm.
something. And usually, that's what actually gets those creative juices flowing. So
Mhm.
I think so I guess my answer would be just getting started, just like getting in the car. If I was in Cincinnati still driving downtown.
Yeah. Okay. I like that reminder. That's the taking that first step. Get in the car, walk out of your front door. I have interviewed other people who have little games that they play with themselves, like take your camera and take 100 steps and take a picture of whatever is at the end of your 100 steps. And that's how
Ooh.
you start. And so I was like, oh, that's so cool to kind of create these little creative games for yourself to jumpstart an opportunity. So,
Yeah, it makes it fun, kind of
mhm.
uh, lightens it up, I think, a little bit.
So I'm curious when you think of your own experience with maybe feeling creative or not feeling creative, and knowing that there are other people in the world who don't believe that they are creative, how would you
Mm.
encourage others to find creativity in their life?
Yeah, I do agree. I believe everyone is creative. I think it's just finding, the way that works for you to express that. So, I mean, I guess I would encourage, someone to try as many different mediums as possible.
Mhm.
Um, you know, Photography, videography, dance, acting, whatever it might be, just try it all out. I'd say that could be one of the best things um, to do, and then I think also, I mean, there's something to be said about just like persistence, and keep trying, keep kind of putting yourself out there, and then also, we've talked about mindfulness, looking for there's opportunities to create, like, I think, in every moment. Um, like
Mhm.
in if I'm doing therapy, I think like there's a lot of creativity going on, and you
Mhm.
can kind of just own that, and connect with that, and just kind of remind yourself that's creativity right there. You're creating something to help life work better.
That's a great reminder to like look at being creative and finding creativity in your own life by improving your life in some capacity, or making something a little easier or more fulfilling or more joyful. I think of
Hmm.
creativity as bringing a lot of joy to my own life. And so
Mm.
finding that, is that your experience, or how do you connect those dots?
Yeah, like you're saying, like creativity and bringing joy
Into
in
my own life. Yeah. So this experience, what you were saying of, it doesn't have to necessarily be a creative art expression or
Mm.
experience. So finding creativity in the therapeutic setting that you're
Yes.
improving something in your life, or and to me, even when it's challenging, because not all therapy is like sunshine and ponies and easy, um, but
Yeah.
there's some expression and experience of joy when we grow and change, when I grow and change in my own life.
Yeah. Um, I think something you just said I loved, which is, creativity doesn't necessarily have to be like art. And
Yeah.
they often do overlap, but
Hmm.
yeah, those, in those daily moments we can still create. And yeah, I think When we do create, for me, it's creating something beautiful, that makes me happy. That brings me joy. But creating something that brings us joy, I think it takes some work, and sometimes it takes a little bit to get there, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah, well, it's good to hear that it's definitely possible and we can find it in our life. Why don't you share, before we wrap up today, a little bit more about where people can get the book, when it comes out, on all of that, those pieces.
Yeah. So the book came out on May 6th. So it's available. The publisher is called Trope, Trope. So, but it's also on Amazon. So I think if you just Google Cincinnati Dreaming, something should pop up. And then I don't have a official photography website, but I'm most active on Instagram. So you can look me up on Instagram. My handle is MP the Comeback Kid with 1K, because 2Ks exceeded the character limit. Um, so yeah, MP the Comeback Kid. I'm on there, and I've been putting up a lot more of my Cincinnati work from a few years ago.
Awesome. Well, I will put the links in show notes so people have easy access. I have one last question for you. What does it feel like in your body to be creative?
Oh, that's a good one. Um, what does it feel like? I'd say, I think I mentioned this, or we talked about this a little bit ago. I think it feels there's a lightness. I mean, I don't know. It almost feels, yeah, like a lightness. There's like a smooth, like an effortlessness in a way. I don't know, if that's making any sense, but even if it takes work, there's still I don't know, like a piece, or like a lightness. I keep coming back to that word.
I love
Feels
it.
light.
Yeah, no, those are great. It's your experience, so but it makes sense to me to hear
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I get that visceral expression and experience of what it means or what it
Mhm.
feels like in your body to be creative. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for taking the time to chat with me. It has been a pure pleasure. I will make sure all your links are in show notes so people have easy access. And thank you again for taking the time to chat with me.
Of course, this was great. Very refreshing to talk about creativity.
Yay! Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Sustaining Creativity Podcast. We'd love to keep in touch, so follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We are at Sustaining Creativity. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Tag your friends and family so they can listen too. We love to hear from you, so leave your reviews, comments, and questions. Check out our website, sustainingcreativity.com, for upcoming offerings and creativity coaching. Tune in Tuesdays for our next episode. And remember, with creativity, anything's possible.